Vapers, Everyday Vaper here again with a hardware review, a brand new, potentially game-changing Sub Ohm tank with various different features on. This comes from OBS. This is the T-VCT. Very kindly sent to me by the team at OBS in China for the purpose of review. They sent me 2 of these, so I'm going to be giving one of these away at the end of this video. So all you've got to do is watch, and I'll give you details at the end of how you can win it. But as for now, what we're going to do is go down below, check out this in a little bit more detail, look at it with a bit of close-up, and also talk about some of the features. See you down there. So this is how the tank arrived for review. Nice plastic case. There's no picture on the front. There is some information on the back about the material, the coil type, the top filling design, about the capacity, the wattage range to use it on, the life term, outside liquid holes adjustment, and also some tips on there as well. As I said, there's no information on the front and there's no pictures on the front, so when we open it up we can take out our tank there. So let's have a look at the tank in a little bit more detail. Nice solid stainless steel construction with a glass Pyrex or Pyrex glass centre there. Very large chamber, liquid chamber in the centre there. On the top we have a removable drip tip held on by 2 O-rings and quite a wide bore hole there for your vapor. On the bottom we have our 510. Now the 510 seems to be quite recessed and it's a very small centre pin. It does have an insulator in there, but I'm not sure whether that's going to cause problems in the future with shorting, etc., because there is no, the centre pin doesn't stick out or isn't prominent from the negative part. You have the airflow control here, so it's on both sides, dual airflow control. Very wide bore there of the airflow. On the top of the tank you have 2 arrows, and this is because this is a top filling tank. So you can remove the top cap, and on the top there you have your juice filling holes, and as you can see down, looking down in the center there, you can see into the chamber, and the bottom there is the coil. We can turn this and it will close off our juice filling holes, and we'll also open up down below, if we look in a bit more detail, the actual juice ports on the coil. So as I turn this center ring, this top ring on the tank, you can see on the coil there we can close off and open up our juice ports. So if we look in a bit more detail in the coil itself before we open up the tank, the coil has 4 juice ports on it. It's a 0.5 ohm coil and it's rated between 10 watts and 35 watts. So 4 very large juice ports that you can adjust by using the tank itself. So thicker juice, you want to be using the pretty much wide open. For thinner juice you want to close off the juice ports, and we have a very large airflow. The largest airflow that I've seen. The Delta 2 is the next largest that I've seen. This one is a very large airflow for the coil. And looking inside the coil, we have there the gauze, and we have also got our coil going through the center of it there. So it's a vertical coil. Now the cotton itself that they use for the wicking is organic cotton. There is no man-made materials in there, which is good. As you can see, the actual coil has O-rings on there for when it goes into the tank. It doesn't screw into the tank, it just is pinched by the tank itself and held in by these O-rings, and you can screw the base of the coil into the base of the actual tank. So we look at the tank in a little bit more detail then. Very large window, as I said before. We can use these juice ports to close and open the juice. We can take apart the tank by unscrewing the base of the tank. And if we look in the tank first, what we have here is a large center chamber, and then the outer ring is obviously where the juice sits, and we have this bar going across, and that is our spit back bar, designed to prevent juice spit back that some tanks, Sub Ohm tanks, tend to do a bit. And on the top there, as I said before, there's our juice filling ports. And we can look down in the chamber there. So it's a nice construction. You have the TVC lettering on there and also OBS lettering on the side there as well. We look at the base of the coil, or the base of the tank. Our coil sits and screws in there nicely. There's the inside of the tank with a very large positive connection part there. So we can screw it back in. And it just sits there nicely. Now when we place our tank back on, you'll notice now that our coil will slide into the actual coil head part of the tank there, the chamber, and we can screw it back on, and there it is. So the chamber is quite narrow once it gets past the coil in the tank, allowing for this 6 ml juice that this tank holds. We can replace our drip tip once I screw the top cap back on, that is. And replace the drip tip. So that is the OBS tank. Let's go up top and talk a little bit more in detail about the tank itself. So we've seen it in a little bit more detail, but let's look at its potentially game-changing feature, which is, well, one of the game-changing features is this filling process, a top filling sub-ohm tank. No more messy bottom fills. So let's go down below, check it out, how we fill it up. So we can look at refilling our T-VCT. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to ensure that the airflow is closed off. So we want the airflow closed off. We also want to make sure that our juice ports are closed as well by moving this second ring down here. We can turn it to close off our juice ports. And once that is done, we can remove our top cap here. And we'll be left with this top section with the holes open. So we're going to get our juice and we're just going to squirt it in. You don't have to do it slowly, you can push it in nice and firmly. You can fill this tank very fast. Obviously depending on the juice. I'm using 80% VG, so it's quite thick and takes a while to get in there. And there we go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to replace our top cap. And then we can open up our juice ports. Now ideally the instructions say to leave the coil to sit for 30 seconds or so. You can do some primer pulls, so you can vape the tank without actually putting any power through it to suck the juice into the coil as well. That will also help. And we can open up our airflow as well to suit. And that's the filling process. Very simple, leak-free filling process. Makes it nice and simple. And you don't have to take the base off and you don't get any liquid on your hands. So we've seen it in detail. Let's talk about some of the features of it and how it compares to its competitors in the market. As you can see, it's quite a good looking tank, and its natural competitors are going to be your Delta 2, your Sub-Tank Mini, and also your Atlantis, which I don't have here. And there's lots of other ones coming out there as well, but they're the main big selling competitors. The airflow of the T-VCT is the same kind of feel as the Sub-Tank Mini. It's a little bit less airy than the Delta 2. And its wattage range is slightly different from both of those. Whereas the Sub-Tank is pretty good up to 25 watts, or it's rated at 25 watts. The Delta 2 is rated up to 45 watts. This one will go from 10 watts to 35 watts. The coil build is kind of similar to the Delta 2 one with the vertical coils, but it does have more juice ports and larger juice ports and a bigger airflow as well. And the vape is comparable to the Sub Tank Mini. It's not as flavoursome as your Delta 2 and not as airy as your Delta 2 either. Now, OBS, when they sent me this, there was details of how to fill it and how to vape it first of all. And what they say is to let the coil sit in the fluid or in your e-liquid for 30 seconds and then start vaping at a low wattage. Don't crank it straight up to 30-35 watts. Go between 20-25 watts just to let that coil break in. And they also say that if you are using different liquids, then it will only last up to 10 mils potentially, maybe a little bit longer, but that is their baseline. They also say that if you're using the same liquid in the tank, then you can vape on the same coil up to 100 mils. So it vapes well. A fair amount of vape production. Although I wouldn't say as much as the Delta 2. But what is that game changer? Well, it is this controllable juice port from the actual top of the tank and also the way you fill it. Top filling is the way to go for tanks. No more messy bottom filling. You can just top it straight up. So it's made out of stainless steel, as we said before. The styling's very solid. Has a lot of features. There are some cons on this, and that is the like I said, the airflow isn't as good as it could be. The airflow holes on the coils are massive, but the actual base of the device itself doesn't let that huge amount of airflow come through. Also, the build on the actual drip tip. The drip tip is always quite loose. On both of the ones that I've tested out, the drip tip is quite loose. And there is no rebuildable option yet. There are two kind of coils that you can get for this actual device, the actual tank itself. You can get the 0.5 ohm bottom vertical coil, and you also get a bottom triangle dual coil, which goes from 0.2 to 0.5. So different coils you can get, but like I say, there's no rebuildable option yet. So if you guys are rebuilding your sub ohm tanks, not yet. Although I think that's in development. So the plus points then on this are obviously this top fill, very, very useful. The juice flow controller that you can just adjust by the ring at the top. That's also a very useful bit of equipment. And also it is very good looking as well. It's a nice, good looking tank, and you can see the liquid and your amount of liquid that you got left in there. No problem at all. And one thing it does have over the Delta 2, there's no man-made fibers or ceramics inside the wicks of the coils. It's all organic cotton. So if you like your sub ohm tanks, then this is definitely one to give a shot. Look out for it. It's not, I haven't seen it in any shops yet. I'm just waiting for OBS to let me know at what point they're going to be selling it and where they're going to be selling it. At the moment, I don't have a price for the actual tank itself either. But it's definitely one to look out for from OBS. This is the T-VCT. So, how do you win this one? Well, as always, you have to be a subscriber. And all you got to do is comment below on this video. So if you want this sent to your door, brand new, unopened T-VCT Sub Ohm tank with two 0.5 ohm coils, be subscribed and comment below. Check it out.